The second year I was a billionaire's kept woman, I got pregnant. He assigned more than 20 bodyguards in black suits to watch me, terrified I'd pull a disappearing act with his baby. But I just kept on eating, drinking, and living my best life, with absolutely no intention of running. Finally, the billionaire's old flame, who'd just returned to the country, couldn't take it anymore. She came to confront me. "I'm back now. You and your baby are redundant. You should run, and I can even help you." I gave her a lazy wave. "No need to trouble yourself. I've got money to spend and people to wait on me here. It's a great life. Why would I run?" The billionaire, who was eavesdropping, let out a long sigh of relief. But then he heard me add, "Honestly, it's just a pain to go looking for male models while I'm pregnant. I'll make do with him for now. Once the baby's born, I'll be free to have my fun again." The billionaire's face instantly darkened. I met Julian at a coffee shop. A rich woman was offering me $200,000 to stay away from her son. "A homewrecker like you will never marry into my family." Tears streamed down my face as I begged her for a chance. She refused, upping the offer to $300,000. "Ma'am, actually, Don't say another word. I won't agree." "No, what I mean is..." "Fine. Seeing as you truly love my son, $500,000. That's my final offer." I couldn't take it anymore and cut her off. "Ma'am, what I mean is, can we sign a gift agreement?" As she stared at me in shock, I laid out my proposal. "Ma'am, if you give me $500,000, I'll break up with him right now. For $600,000, I can chew him out when I dump him, block him permanently, and guarantee I'll never show my face to him again. And for $700,000, I can even fake an affair to break his heart, making sure he stays far away from homewreckers like me for the rest of his life." With that, I pulled out a pre-prepared gift agreement and handed it to her to sign. The woman was so furious she threw her coffee in my face. "I knew you were only after his money." She signed her name on the agreement and was about to leave when I stopped her again. "What now? Don't tell me you've changed your..." I grabbed my own coffee and poured it straight over her head. The mixture of milk and espresso dripped down from her scalp. Her perfectly styled hair, now smelling faintly of coffee, was a beautiful sight. I nodded, satisfied. "There. We're all settled. Goodbye forever, ma'am." The rich woman gave me $600,000. According to the original deal I had with her son, I still had to give him half. This was just his way of getting money from his family, and I was his partner in crime. The clueless mother gnashed her teeth, cursing that no man would ever want me. I had to think about every miserable thing that had ever happened to me just to keep from laughing out loud. Once I'm rich, who cares about that? I could snap my fingers and have a dozen male models flocking to my side. But in the next second, someone appeared behind me. "I want her." I spun around, curious to see who could be so arrogant. The moment I saw his face, I froze. It was a masterpiece. Delicate features, a strong jawline, and dark eyes like deep pools that could suck you in with a single glance. That was the first time I met Julian. He said if I was looking for a relationship, I could find him. Not only that, he handed me a black card. I scoffed and pulled my own black card out of my pocket. "See this? I can even get a discount on fried chicken with it." But when I placed our cards side by side, I realized his was accented with a faint gold filigree. In comparison, mine looked like it was made of plastic. Julian didn't mock me. He just wore a faint smile. "So? Want to be with me? I don't just take money from anyone." I looked him up and down and asked with genuine curiosity, "Do you have an 8-pack?" I got together with Julian purely because I was greedy for his money and his looks. He introduced me to his parents and friends, telling everyone I was his girlfriend. But at a party once, I overheard people talking about me. In their circle, they don't call it a girlfriend. They call it being kept. I turned around and smiled at the man gossiping. "Do you have a girlfriend?" "No, why?" You're not even worth being kept. The man gritted his teeth in anger but couldn't do a thing. At first, they were all sure Julian and I would break up in 3 months. After 3 months, they said we wouldn't last 6. After 6 months, they said it wouldn't go past a year. Every time, they started a new betting pool on when we'd break up. A year passed, and I'd made a small fortune just from those bets. Then, to my horror, I realized I was pregnant. Julian was the one who figured it out first. We were strolling hand in hand when he suddenly gripped my wrist, his expression changing. "I think you're pregnant." He said it with the same level of astonishment as Godzilla telling King Kong, "I'm only destroying the city so you'll come see me." Julian took me to the hospital, and after a series of tests, it turned out I really was pregnant. The key question was, how did he know before I did? I told you before, my grandmother was a practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine. I picked up a few things from her. Looks like the competition in the billionaire lane is pretty fierce these days. Leaving the hospital, I clutched my stomach, speechless for a long time. Julian followed behind me, watching me cautiously. "What are you thinking about?" He squeezed my hand, his warmth enveloping mine. "Don't overthink it. I'll take responsibility. We can get Mar." I stroked my slightly rounded belly and cut him off. "I have to use the restroom. A number 2. Damn it. I ate way too much while we were out, and now it was hitting me. The signal in the bathroom was terrible, so I couldn't even play on my phone. I started to reflect on my life. I knew I shouldn't have gotten so carried away with Julian. We got caught up in the moment, and we both forgot about protection. But damn, Julian's body was incredible. An 8-pack and washboard abs. Great stamina and a lot of patience. And he was total eye candy in public. Anyone who saw us had to admit, that girl's eating well. Most importantly, Julian still had a lot of value I could exploit. After sorting out my thoughts, I got up and left the restroom, just as my best friend called. My favorite artist was having a concert, and she'd managed to snag 2 tickets. "Really? Take me with you. Where are the seats? Is the hotel booked? I'll look up flights right now." The words had barely left my mouth when someone rushed in front of me like a gust of wind. "Ava, what are you doing? Are you trying to run off with my baby?" I have no idea why Julian came up with that idea. From that day on, he was like a cat on a hot tin roof. The security system at his mansion underwent an epic upgrade, and he even started sending more than 20 bodyguards to protect me whenever I left the house. Julian said that as long as I didn't try to run, all of them would be at my command. Really? I started to seriously consider the feasibility of sending them to work in a factory and having them give me half their wages. Julian became jumpy about everything. I was the one who was pregnant, but he was the one who was a nervous wreck. I even found his search history on his phone. How to know if a woman really loves you? What are the signs a woman wants to have a baby and ditch the dad? How do you capture a woman's heart? Seeing how lost he was, I decided to help him out. I started searching for things like chest harnesses, men kneeling in suits, and shirt garters on my own phone. I hoped the algorithm would take the hint. Finally, one night while Julian was scrolling online, a tutorial popped up on his feed. How to win a woman's heart, master these 10 thirst traps and your girlfriend will never leave. I saw Julian studying it frame by frame out of the corner of my eye and knew my personal welfare was about to get a major upgrade. It wasn't just Julian who was acting weird, the people around him were, too. For example, the housekeeper and the cook at the mansion would always look at me with pity in their eyes. I still remember the first time Julian brought me to the mansion to spend the night. The housekeeper looked at me with such a sense of relief and said the strangest thing. "You're the first girl our young master has ever brought home. It's been so long since we've seen him smile like this." I stood up in shock and looked at Julian. "Were you paralyzed from the face down before? Are you cured now? Or do you have depression?" If it was a psychological issue, I was going to have to charge more. After all, I was his sugar baby, not his emotional support animal. I wasn't responsible for mood regulation. Thankfully, they didn't say anything else weird after that. Until now. Did you hear? Miss Ava is pregnant. Really? Does that mean she's going to run off with the baby now? I heard Miss Claire is already back in the country. But I still think Miss Ava is a better match for the young master. The two of them were whispering in the kitchen. It wasn't until I cleared my throat that they snapped out of it, looking at me with awkward smiles. Miss Ava, you didn't hear anything, did you? Well, the walls in this house aren't exactly soundproof. Besides, they hadn't even bothered to lower their voices. I had to assume I was meant to hear it. After some persistent questioning, the housekeeper finally gave in and told me the truth. Julian apparently had an old flame who had just returned to the country. They were worried that if I found out, I wouldn't be able to handle it and would run away with the baby. All I can say is, they need to read fewer billionaire romance novels. Even if I were to run, I'd make sure to get a lot more money first. I can't let myself suffer, no matter what. I started plotting how to get my hands on more cash. I was so lost in thought that I didn't even notice Julian come up behind me. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, burying his head in my neck and murmuring, "What are you thinking about?" "Thinking about how to scam you out of your money." The words slipped out, and we both froze. Damn. Did I really just say that out loud? After a moment of stunned silence, Julian let out a soft chuckle. "If that's what you're worried about, you could have just asked." Julian turned and left, returning a moment later with 2 documents in his hand. "Good thing I have a lot of money." He pushed the files toward me. They were deed transfer agreements for 2 properties. Just like a billionaire, his go-to move was giving away real estate. "My parents are having a get-together this weekend. Will you come with me?" You don't bite the hand that feeds you, so I had to agree. The last time I'd been to Julian's family home was last month. His family was a handful, to say the least. The car pulled up to the estate. As soon as Julian got out, he ran into a few business partners and had to stop to chat. I had brought a cake, and with the hot weather, I needed to get it into a fridge quickly, so I went on ahead. Just as I started walking, I saw a beautiful figure in the distance. It was Claire, the woman everyone called Julian's old flame. Rumor had it they'd had a sweet, innocent romance back in high school. I'd heard her name mentioned by many of Julian's friends. Back then, no one thought Julian and I would last. They all said I was just Claire's replacement. The worst it ever got was at a party, when a man came right up to my face and said it. "You only get to be with Julian because you look like Claire. The second she comes back, you'll be out on the street." I looked at the balding, beer-bellied man with his foul breath and couldn't hold back. All beautiful women have something in common. Unlike you ugly freaks, who are ugly in 1,000 different ways. You're a living testament to biodiversity. Just as I said it, Julian returned with a glass of wine. He simply chuckled when he heard my remark. I never saw that man again. As I passed by Claire, she called out to me. "You must be Ava. I've seen photos of you two on Julian's feed. I'm his high school classmate." I nodded slightly. Claire looked me over, then frowned when she saw Julian wasn't with me. "You're going in without waiting for Julian?" "It's fine." Mainly because the cake was about to melt. I walked away with the cake, faintly hearing Claire's sigh behind me. Before I had time to ponder the meaning of her sigh, the main door opened. The butler greeted me warmly. Hearing the commotion, Julian's mother rushed out. "Is that Ava? Let me see you." In the next moment, the elegant woman was right in front of me, whispering in my ear, "Julian said you're pregnant. Is it true?" When I confirmed it, her eyes widened, a flash of pure joy in them. I'd seen that same look when we first met. Back then, Julian and I had just moved in together. The housekeeper immediately reported the news to his mother. Soon enough, I met her in person. I was watching TV on the couch when she stormed up to me. "Let me tell you something. My son might like you, but I'm not a pushover. A little thing like you. I turned to look at her. The moment she saw my face, she froze mid-sentence, taking a deep breath as the words caught in her throat. Little, no, wait, stunningly beautiful thing. Julian's mom grabbed my hand, too excited to speak. After finally composing herself, she let go and ran off to make a phone call. Honey, our son found a real beauty. I'm serious. Turns out our son isn't gay. Later, Julian's mom explained her thought process over the years. Because Julian had never been in a relationship, his parents had suspected for years that he was gay. When they finally heard he had a girlfriend, she binged every show about difficult mothers-in-law, worried she'd be bullied. She wanted to make a strong first impression to establish dominance. But you're so beautiful, I'd be happy to let you bully me. She held my hand, her joy impossible to hide. For a while after that, she took me to all sorts of parties, introducing me to everyone. That, of course, sparked a new round of rumors. People whispered that I must have some special trick to make Julian's mom like me, that I'd forced Julian into the relationship. Julian's mother held my hand, chatting happily as Claire walked into the mansion, looking at us with some surprise. But she quickly composed herself and greeted Julian's mother. My eyes scanned the crowd. There were a lot of guests tonight. Julian was busy talking with a few business associates. I was about to go find him when my foot suddenly slipped as I passed the staircase. Careful. A woman caught me just in time. I thanked her and met her gaze. The moment she saw my face, the woman froze, terrified, and immediately let go of my hand. Ava, what are you doing here? Her eyes were wide with fear. Someone passing by took the opportunity to introduce us. Sophie, this is Julian's girlfriend, Ava. Ava, this is Sophie, from the Song family. The Songs and the Pays have been business partners for years. I looked at Sophie and smiled, extending my hand. But Sophie just backed away in terror. After the other person left, she grabbed my wrist, her grip anything but friendly. Ava, what did you do? How did you end up here? A few years abroad hadn't changed her blunt, aggressive nature one bit. Back then, Sophie used to mock me for being a country bumpkin, saying I'd never make it into her high society world. I never imagined her so-called world would be so easy for me to enter. Have you enjoyed your time abroad? I'd been looking forward to our reunion ever since I saw her name on the party's guest list. I heard she'd graduated from a prestigious foreign university. While you were studying overseas, did you find someone as smart as me to take your tests for you? Sophie's face instantly went pale. But then her hand brushed against the scar on my wrist. Her smile returned, and she looked at me with smug triumph. You think you've won just because you've latched onto someone rich? Julian doesn't really like you. Everyone in our circle knows about him and Claire. Now that Claire's back, you can just wait to be kicked to the curb. She shoved my hand away. I lost my balance and stumbled backward. Behind me was a steep staircase. Sophie reached out to grab me, but I dodged her. She'd become something of a minor celebrity online, this high society girl. I'd been keeping a close eye on her for years. She participated in charities, donated to causes, everyone said she was as kind as she was beautiful. But starting today, I was going to shatter that reputation. Ava. But I hadn't expected Julian to appear in front of me in the next second. He grabbed my hand tightly, stopping me from falling down the stairs. I regained my footing, only to notice the fine beads of cold sweat on his forehead. Are you okay? Are you hurt? Why did you fall? Low blood sugar. Did you twist your ankle? The barrage of questions was overwhelming. Before I could answer, Julian's eyes landed on Sophie, who was staring at me. Did you push her? Things were getting a little out of hand. To be honest, Julian treated me well, and I wanted to keep him out of this as much as possible. I had my own way of giving Sophie what she deserved. No, I didn't push her. I was just trying to catch up with her. Catch up? You two knew each other before? Sophie shook her head frantically. No, I've never seen her before in my life. She lost her balance and fell on purpose, I swear. Claire can prove it. Only then did I notice Claire standing by the buffet table not far away. Seeing her, Sophie looked as if she'd found her savior. Claire, you saw it, right? She fell on purpose to frame me, didn't she? Sophie then turned to Julian with a self-righteous air. You can't let yourself be fooled by a woman like this. Claire is the one who's right for you. Ava is. I didn't see anything. Before Sophie could finish, Claire cut her off and pulled her hand away. Claire, what are you doing? This woman stole your Julian. Claire took a step back, putting distance between herself and Sophie. I didn't see if she fell on purpose. All I saw was the two of you talking. You grabbed Miss Ava's hand, then shoved it away, and the next thing I knew, she almost fell. Also, whatever issues you two have, please don't use me as a weapon. With that, Claire turned and walked away, leaving Sophie standing there, speechless and unable to defend herself. The party atmosphere wasn't dampened by this little incident. But for the rest of the night, Julian stuck by my side, and I could clearly feel his displeasure. Whether it was because of his old flame's coldness or for some other reason, I couldn't tell. When we left, Julian's mother gave me a mountain of supplements and asked when my next checkup was, which hospital I was registered at, and so on. I hadn't thought about any of that. Until now, I'd just been eating, drinking, and bottling everything up. Seeing my dismissive attitude, she looked at Julian and me with a hint of reproach. Have you two not thought about any of this? What about getting married? Do you want to walk down the aisle with a baby bump? Or are you not planning to keep the baby? I turned my head to look at Julian. Are we? He replied with just 2 words, up to you. So cold. But then he added, I hope we can keep it, but I respect your decision. I just hope you don't do anything to hurt yourself. As he said this, Julian squeezed my hand, a gesture that seemed to hold a hidden meaning. I suspected he already knew something. It made sense. A man as smart as him couldn't possibly have missed it. But I didn't have the mental energy to dwell on that. I just wanted to get my plan over with as soon as possible. I figured that after getting home, Sophie would tell her parents about me. Soon enough, I had a visitor, Sophie's mother. Mrs. Song was just as I remembered her, impeccably polite on the surface. She came personally with gifts. That was precisely why I wanted to rip off her mask of kindness. When the housekeeper asked if I wanted to see her, I deliberately hid, leaving her to bake in the sun outside the door. Only when she was sweating profusely did I have her brought into the sitting room. The moment she saw me, her smile returned. Ava, it's been so long. I never imagined you'd turn out so beautifully. It looks like you've had a good life these past few years. And your mother? I trust she's been well? I clenched my fists and forced a smile. Thanks to you, we've been doing wonderfully. After all, every single day since I left the Song family has been dedicated to achieving today's goal. For today's goal, I studied day and night. Years ago, Sophie had left a gash on my hand that nearly cost me the ability to write. To this day, the scar still aches and itches on rainy days. Julian once traced the scar and asked how I got it. I just brushed it off with a random excuse. But I knew in my heart that when this scar was finally uncovered, it would reveal a hatred I had nurtured for years. Mrs. Song knew exactly what happened back then, but she still brought up my mother, as if to remind me of my place. I heard you and Sophie had a little disagreement last night. Don't take it to heart. She took my hand and patted my head like a loving aunt. You've known each other for so many years. Why let a small thing cause such unpleasantness? After all, if it weren't for me, you and your mother would have been begging on the streets, wouldn't you? She was right. My mother was a woman from a rural village with no education. She had a hard time adjusting to the big city after finally leaving the mountains. It wasn't until she became a maid for the Song family that our lives finally got better. My mom worked for them for 7 years. Sophie, a person needs to face reality. You and Julian might be close now, but how long does a man's affection really last? I hear Claire is back. You probably don't know this, but they were childhood sweethearts. You and Julian don't stand a chance. She maintained her arrogant posture, placing a gift on the table as she prepared to leave. But just a few steps later, she got a phone call. The person on the other end said something, and Mrs. Song's face suddenly changed. She spun around and stared at me, her eyes filled with venom. I calmly pulled out my phone and scrolled through the news. Socialite Sophie Song hired proxies for exams for years, straight-a student persona exposed. TSK, how could such a rumor get started? The words had barely left my mouth when Mrs. Song lunged at me, her hands closing around my neck. Ava, you took the money. If this gets out, you won't escape either. I struggled to breathe, the air in my lungs rapidly depleting. I pointed a finger toward the security camera in the corner. As if waking from a dream, Mrs. Song immediately let go. I hunched over the table, coughing violently. Just then, I heard a sound from the door. It was a Monday. Julian was supposed to be at his company for a regular meeting. I never expected him to come back early, let alone walk in on this scene. What surprised me even more was how he shoved Mrs. Song aside and rushed to my side. Ava, what happened? Are you okay? Mrs. Song stood there awkwardly, forcing a respectable smile. Mr. Pei, please, let me explain. This is all a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? You come into my home and attack my girlfriend? No, Mr. Pei, please don't jump to conclusions. Why don't we sit down and talk this through? We were just about to discuss the East Side project, and we're prepared to offer a larger share of the profits. There's no need. From yesterday to today, you've both gone after Ava. I want nothing more to do with your family. I will be pursuing this matter to the fullest extent. Julian had the housekeeper show her out. Mrs. Song kept looking back, her eyes filled with shock. I wanted to go rest, but Julian grabbed my hand. Ava, are you still not going to tell me the truth? It wasn't that I was hiding things from Julian, but I did instinctively avoid certain topics. Like why I was suddenly expelled from high school, or the scar on my wrist. I remember once, after we'd been intimate, Julian held me close. His fingertips traced a line from my forearm down to my palm, lacing his fingers with mine. But as he brushed over my wrist, I instinctively tried to pull my hand away. He held it firm, forcing our fingers to stay intertwined. In the quiet room, the only sound was his heartbeat. After a long silence, Julian finally spoke, his voice husky and soft in my ear. Still can't tell me? I just cut it by accident. He fell silent again. In that silence, we both knew the truth. Even if I didn't tell him, a man with his resources could have easily found out. But he was stubborn, always waiting for me to be the one to open up. And so it dragged on, until now. It's nothing, really. I just got stabbed with a knife once, needed 8 stitches. The blood splattered all over my face. My mother working as a maid for the Song family was a good job. Mrs. Song paid well, and when she found out my mom had a daughter, she would give me Sophie's old clothes. I had never worn such nice things. After 3 years, my mom had saved enough money to bring me to the city and enroll me in school. When Mrs. Song learned my grades were not only keeping up but were at the top of my class, she was surprised and asked to meet me. The day we met, I was wearing Sophie's hand-me-downs. The first thing she did was mock me. I didn't take it to heart, just clutched the hem of my clothes and smiled awkwardly. I was in 9th grade then, and Sophie was in 8th. After looking over my test papers, Mrs. Song suggested I take Sophie's exams for her. She wanted to send Sophie abroad, and the schools she was applying to looked at her grades. To repay me, she arranged for me to attend the same elite private school as Sophie, so I could finish high school there. And that's how my nightmare began. The other students looked down on me, the teachers were sycophants who disliked me, and Sophie led the charge in bullying me. Every time I wanted to fight for justice, would think of my mother's hard work. Just endure it a little longer, I'd tell myself. College will be better. Mrs. Song was also nice to me. She seemed vaguely aware of what was happening at school and would often give my mother and me expensive gifts as compensation. Ava, Sophie is my only daughter. She can be a bit willful sometimes. Please don't take it to heart. I was grateful to her, so I never made a fuss about those things and continued to be Sophie's proxy test taker. I even took major exams and national competitions for her. Until my senior year of high school, when someone new came to the Song household. It turned out Sophie had an older brother, Sean, who had been living abroad. The reason he was kept out of sight was that he had XYY syndrome. The first day he was back in the country, he went out street racing and injured a pedestrian. Sophie's father had to spend a fortune to make it go away. My mom quietly told me that Sean had been raised by nannies overseas and had only returned because he'd gotten into trouble there. He was forced to come back and lay low until the trouble blew over. She warned me to stay away from the Song house from then on. But one day, I saw bruises on the back of her hand. When I asked, I found out that Sean had taken his anger out on her just because she was cleaning and he'd slipped and fallen. I told her to quit her job, but she just shook her head, gripping my hand tightly. Just a little longer. You're almost in college. Mom just needs to save a little more money, and we can have a better life. Talking about the past, I didn't feel particularly sad. Back then, I thought I was just a strong person, until my mom took me to a therapist. He said it was a defense mechanism, forcing myself to dissociate from the emotions. As I recounted my story, Julian's expression seemed even more somber than mine. We were squeezed together on a lounge chair in the backyard. I reached out and pinched his cheeks, forcing him to smile. Julian let me, but as soon as I let go, he took my hand. And then, I just kept enduring it. As my college entrance exams approached, Mrs. Song asked me to help Sophie with an important competition. The competition was in late August. My mom wanted me to focus on my own exams, but Mrs. Song was worried that with only 2 months to prepare, I wouldn't be able to win first place for Sophie. Before I could even agree, Sean had another episode and beat my mother. He even used her phone to send me a video of it that day. You and your mother are our family's dogs. You do what you're told, so what's all the fuss? In the video, my mom was on the floor, her face covered in blood. A chill ran down my spine. I bolted out of school and ran to the Song family's house. When I arrived, my mom was barely conscious. The other servants were there, all standing with their heads down, pretending not to see. From upstairs, I could hear Sophie's gleeful voice. Hit her harder, brother. Film it for Ava, give her a good scare. I screamed and lunged at Sean, and we started fighting. Sean grabbed a fruit knife from the table and plunged it deep into my wrist. The Songs walked in to find this horrific scene. Mrs. Song didn't hesitate, she slapped me across the face. How dare you touch my precious son? Thankfully, I had called the police beforehand. They arrived and took all of us away. But during the questioning, everyone in the Song family denied everything. While my mom and I were still in the hospital, Mrs. Song showed up with a settlement agreement for me to sign. Nobody wanted this to happen. I'll make sure my son is punished. You should just let it go. Her idea of punishment was sending Sean to another country. Sean has already left the country. There's no point in pursuing this. You're better off taking the settlement. I'll give you more money. I refused. Why should they get to walk away scot-free? So I exposed everything online, including Sophie's years of cheating. But my posts and videos were always taken down within 24 hours. The Songs sent Sophie abroad as well, and I was inexplicably expelled from school. It was like everything was back to square one. And that's the story. I forced a casual smile, not bothering with the rest. There wasn't much else to tell, really. Just physical therapy, redoing my senior year, going to college, and working part-time jobs to make money. In my junior year, a gay upperclassman asked me to pretend to be his girlfriend to appease his family. But his parents took one look at me and decided I looked like a homewrecker and kicked me out before I even set foot in the door. As I was leaving, though, I received a hefty breakup fee. After splitting it with him, it was like a whole new world opened up to me. Maybe because my looks were anything but innocent, a lot of rich parents suspected I was using their naive sons. I always walked away with a huge breakup fee, making a killing. Until I met Julian. I met Julian's gaze and spoke from the heart. Thank you. Julian was a genuinely good person, and so were his parents. His family truly made me feel what it was like to be respected. Every time I was with them, I was happy. It was like a broken piece of my heart was being quietly mended. And that was precisely why I was so scared. I was afraid that if they abandoned me, the pain would be even worse. Thank you for being so good to me. A tear escaped the corner of my eye. I fumbled to wipe it away, but Julian leaned in and kissed it. Ava, it's not that we're good to you. He whispered in my ear, his voice gentle but firm. It's because you are a good person. You deserve to have everyone be good to you. Julian kissed me. His soft, delicate kisses traveled from my brow down to my lips, until my breath grew ragged and he finally pulled away. Do you remember the first time we met? The coffee shop. No, earlier than that. Years ago, at a competition. You won the gold medal under Sophie's name. I couldn't remember. To make as much money as possible, I gave every competition my all. But to protect my identity, I refused all interviews, always wearing a mask and leaving the moment it was over. I knew you weren't Sophie. But you effortlessly defeated me, even though I'd been preparing for a year. When you received the gold medal, I saw the light in your eyes. They were the most beautiful eyes I'd ever seen. It felt like my heart had been struck. In that moment, I understood what love at first sight meant. Julian gently brushed a stray hair from my forehead, his gaze so tender it felt like it could melt. I'm so happy you told me about your past. You never let me in, and it made me think you didn't like me. I was always worried you'd run away with the baby, and then I was worried you'd do something to hurt yourself. I lowered my eyes to my flat stomach. It was a strange feeling, knowing there was a baby in there. The truth was, I really had considered just falling down those stairs, letting all the blame fall on Sophie. With so many witnesses, she wouldn't have been able to talk her way out of it. I could never be sure if Julian truly loved me. I had so little to hold on to. Ava, I will always be on your side. I was only angry because you were hiding things from me and hurting yourself, because you never thought to confide in me. Julian held me, and I leaned into his embrace, his heartbeat growing clearer. Don't you feel like I'm using you? I'm glad you're using me. At least it proves we're a team. I couldn't help but be surprised. I knew the Song and Pei families had business ties, which was why I never dared to tell him about my past with Sophie. Ava, they are not more important than you. In my heart, you are the most important person. A warmth spread through my chest, and the old scars seemed to finally begin to heal. Then what's the deal with you and Claire? There's nothing there. It was just rumors. After we parted ways at that competition, I was trying to find you. Claire had been in a lot of competitions, so I thought she might know something. I talked to her a few times, and I never imagined the rumors would get so out of hand. I also never imagined people's ability to spread rumors was so powerful. What I expected even less was for Claire to show up and find me. I'm back. You and your baby are redundant. You should run, and I can even help you. I looked at her, completely bewildered. Run from what? Claire seemed just as confused but patiently explained, in the novels, when the heroine misunderstands that the billionaire has an old flame, isn't she supposed to run away with the baby? I mean, Julian and I don't have anything going on, but isn't that how the whole chase the wife and beg for forgiveness trope works? Great. Another one poisoned by billionaire romance novels. I gave her a lazy wave. No need to trouble yourself. I've got money to spend and people to wait on me here. It's a great life. Why would I run? As I finished, I noticed Julian, who had been hiding and eavesdropping, let out a long sigh of relief. But in the next second, I added, honestly, it's just a pain to go looking for male models while I'm pregnant. I'll make do with him for now. Once the baby's born, I'll be free to have my fun again." My words served as a wake-up call for Julian. To prevent me from being lured away by outside male models, he decided he would have to lure me in himself. Chest harnesses, shirt garters, he brought out the whole arsenal, making me drool every single day. My daily routine now involved monitoring the online drama and then, when I got tired, looking at the spicy little thirst traps Julian sent me. It never failed to lift my spirits. The news about Sophie's exam cheating scandal exploded online. Julian even came forward as a witness. The Song family was thrown into a vortex of public outrage. Mrs. Song called to invite me for coffee again. I shut her down immediately. "Sorry, I'm pregnant. I can't drink coffee." "What? You're pregnant? Don't tell me you're planning to use that baby to force the Pei's hand." "Let me tell you, that's impossible. The Pei family would never accept someone like you." Before she could finish, Julian's mother snatched the phone from my hand and started yelling. "Is your own family life so miserable that you have to stir up trouble in others? Let me tell you, not everyone is as blind as your family. Ava is my daughter now, and I know all about the dirty things you've done. You just wait." Julian's mom hung up furiously after delivering her threat. The Song family was drowning trying to handle the Sophie situation. And just then, at the worst possible moment, Sean returned to the country. The moment Julian got the news, he told me to call the police. The police were waiting at the airport and detained Sean right in front of his family. Turns out he'd racked up huge gambling debts overseas and had no choice but to come back. He was caught the second he landed. I had carefully preserved all the evidence from back then, including the medical reports from my injuries. After failing to reach me, Mrs. Song decided to go straight to my mother. She knew my mom was soft-hearted and easy to manipulate, thinking she could get her to sign a forgiveness agreement. But I had already tipped off the media, who were waiting in our hometown. Mrs. Song's long-distance trip only further confirmed that Sean had assaulted my mother. When my mom saw her, she grabbed a broom and chased her out. "What more do you want from us? Wasn't it enough that you ruined my daughter's life? Why won't you leave us alone?" All of the Song family's past scandals were dragged into the light, even the story of how they'd gotten me expelled from high school. Unable to withstand the public pressure, the Song family issued an apology, but their company's stock continued to plummet. The day Sean was released on bail, he got into a huge fight with Sophie. Apparently, Sophie blamed him for everything. Sean, refusing to take the blame, attacked her. Sophie was no match for him. Sean grabbed a heavy ashtray from the table and smashed it into the back of her head, sending her straight to the hospital. The doctors worked for hours, then told her parents to prepare for the worst. She would likely be bedridden for the rest of her life. That same day, Sean was sent back to jail. The Song family was powerless to save their company and had to declare bankruptcy. The day the company collapsed, I was at the hospital for a checkup. I saw the news online and made a point to find out which room Sophie was in. Her family could no longer afford expensive private nurses. She could only move her head. Because she was being uncooperative, a nurse slapped her across the face during mealtime. All she could do was cry pathetically. I stood outside her door, watched her miserable state, and gave her a small smile before turning to leave. Julian was right behind me the whole time, his brow furrowed with worry as I walked down the stairs. I took his hand, placing my other hand on my gently swelling belly. I had a new life now. As for the people from my past, they were doomed to live in their own private hell forever.